obviously have served on the executive council before, as you mentioned. It's been described as being in the weeds of state government. There's a lot to go through for every meeting, a lot of contractual stuff, a lot of financial stuff. What makes you want to go back to that?
Well, I loved it, and I think part of it was Ray Burton's. No one talked to me when first day there. Nobody talked to me. But Ray Burton finally came over and said, "Hi, I'm Ray Burton." And then he took me aside and he says, "These are things you got to do. Everything's going to be very strange because you got the second vote every time we vote here, District 2. Mm-hmm. So you got to make sure you understand the vote because it can be embarrassing." Which I found out when I was on the Keene City Council way back when I had the first vote. And sometimes they got a little mixture there of not quite understanding a negative vote on some things that they wanted to vote something down, but you reversed the language. So it was kind of interesting. But you can see that pile. I could not even put those in my convertible. I had to take the other car, big car. That arrives at your house by state police on Friday night or Saturday morning. The council meeting is on Wednesday. So you've got Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday prepared to get over there. And you've got to be looking for certain things when you get into that pile. It's very difficult. Nominations and appointments, about 5 pages only, single spaced. Those aren't difficult, but I called every one of them. And I had more people saying to me, "Nobody's ever called me before." They were renewals. And I said, it's part of what Ray tells me I got to do, so that's what I do. And then on the others, if I got questions, you can call the commissioner to get your answers. As Ray Burton told me again, you call the commissioner, he'll call you back within half an hour. And they do. After all, you put him in the job, and you can make it very uncomfortable for them if they don't adhere to you. Like get reappointed, hold up some transfer of funds within the department. And then if you get clearance, you might want to call the firm, but that's very rare because everything comes through the department, the commissioner. I noticed one of the people running for council said he's going to talk to every contractor to find out what their programs are for fathers taking leave during the new baby. Well, how do you call every one of those contractors with asking questions about their policies towards the workers and time off? And that's so impractical. But you get through it. Now today, Sununu gets the papers. The others are all on keyboard, what do you call it, tech things anyway. I'm not very good at that stuff.
They're online.
Yeah, and I prefer the paper myself, but you can see it's a ton of paper. So it's the 2 meetings a month, and I had calls that Ray Resort called me one day complaining about they voted to raise the contract levels to 25,000. It was 5,000 when I first went on. Every contract the state did, 5,000 had to come into the council. We did raise it to 10. But what we found was they were splitting contracts, so you came right up to like 9,999, and then you had eventually a change order or something. Deb Pignatelli really pushed finding local contractors to bid on work. Normally, they had a set group of contractors that they put themselves out to. And Deb really pushed to find local people that could bid on this stuff. And she was quite successful in some points. But at the same token, that council, we were all on the road at least 4 days a week. I got involved with schools and wanted to kick a kid out. They said, you can't get involved with a school. And I said, well, a lady called me at the request of a state rep. And they wanted to kick a kid out of school with, I think it was 2 months left, just under 2 months left. I went to reasons about the mother.
So that threshold now, just to get back to that,
25,000.
It's now 25,000. What's the right cap for that, to your view?
Most of us were happy at the 10,000, actually. But they cut, Ray said that they've just cut 25% of their workload. Of course, they're all running for governor. They don't want this workload. That's what he said, you know, next thing they'll have it up to 100,000 and there won't even be a job for a counselor.
Would you propose bringing it back, or?
Oh, no, you can't go back to the commissioners and say, we're uneasy. But they do have to give you a printout of what the contracts are. But on the other hand, I was going through some of my papers this morning, this liquor commission, where they paid $2.5 million for part of the lawsuit for the new construction of the warehouse, and there's still 2 other lawsuits in place. I'd like to find out how did they bypass the executive council? They're supposed to approve all contracts. Something happened under Lynch's last term, and apparently they removed it from the council and put it back solely at the discretion of the liquor commission. But there are a lot of unanswered questions like that. I'd like to know who initiated the discussion to move it, to move that contract, to move the liquor commission, to let them do whatever they want with no oversight. So it was, but yeah, no, it's 25,000, it's in place. You know, this term, both Colin and Sununu and Chris Pappas were all gunning for higher office. Chris wanted to be the run for the Congress from that district over there. And Shea Porter decided that she wanted to make another run for it. I think she does have competition, but Chris wanted to run for that. It's been a good council for seeing through the agendas they have, from what I can understand, but none of them are on the road. Like I said, we were on the road. Ray Resort had the easiest territories, Manchester. I had to go help them hold public hearings when they were taking property for highway construction. I worked with Debbie down here in Winchester, the bridge they did down there. I went up to with Ray Burton's territory, and I went over to Bev Hollingsworth's territory. But I was willing to travel because, again, I was retired. What better way to keep occupied? And the treatment was unbelievable. You get saluted by the state police, you know, and they're all so courteous and helpful.
So you have this wonderful, this is, District 2 is gerrymandering in all its glory, right?
Someone told me way back when that with beer distributor, who was Jim Hayes, I think, designed this because it matched his business route.
I'm not sure what it matches. So my question to you, I guess, is, so this is the district that you serve, but at the end of the day, the executive council makes decisions that affect the state as a whole. How do you balance those needs and those responsibilities with those of the constituencies of District 2, which are vast, or as vast as any district?
They're completely different from the over there in Rochester.
Sure. So how do you balance all of that? How do you serve the needs of the state and that large constituency?
Well, you know, most of the council it's contracts, that data contracts. When you get into the Department of Transportation, the 10-year plan, 93 controlled that. It was a Republican, Peter Spalding, in Manchester, Ray Resort, and then down in Nashua, there was 3 Republicans right there. They never went anywhere. I showed my 10-year plan. I had all those communities with bringing the DOT to the communities. And one Pittsfield, most of them never had anybody from the government come in with a department. It never happened. And I signed these all up. Ray Burton says, that's what I do up north. I get as many communities as I can get. And he says, you're bringing government to the people, and that's what they want. And we got places where no one had ever been before. And it was good. And I did district health councils over in Concord and Rochester, and one up in Tilton with Ray. The contracts are pretty clear cut. It's the highway where you get the money all going into a certain area. But like I said, I was on the road. I stopped at town halls. I went to police stations. I stopped at the fire stations. Sometimes I stopped at a garage for DOT. I got as many places as I could, and I circulated around the district, starting namely way over there, so get that out of the way for the winter. This is winter months, and then head back.
But sort of to get to, again, I'm interested in the vastness of this district. Can you imagine situations where the interests of people in this part of the region would be counter to the interests of people on the seacoast or in Concord? And so you've got to try to please everybody. What becomes the priority there? How do you weigh that out?
I just weigh whatever the subject is, to the best of my ability. Talk to the people in each area that might be affected. They didn't hesitate to call me, so. But that's why I went to all the town halls as fast as I could, so they know who I was, and if they had questions or things they wanted to talk about, I was available. And I could leave the next day for a meeting if someone wanted to meet. That I didn't have to wait for, a week to plan my schedule. I'm 24/7 is the way I put it. I'm 24/7 politician. And, but I would talk, the things that were out there. I would call the community, who are leaders I might want to talk to, the selectmen or maybe the town administrator. Which reminds me, I didn't bring this in for the, but I got money in there because I'm the treasurer up in Nelson. And I got a lot of money and I don't dare leave it in the car. So I brought that, it should be safe.
So you're trusted with money is what you're saying.
Yeah.
You have railed against the council more recently than you were on it, turning down large chunks of federal money in some cases, taking votes against projects and contracts that would have brought money into the state. Can you remember instances when you were on the council where you may have said, yeah, this isn't worth the federal funds?
We had most everything on that agenda. I don't know if you've ever seen the agenda. I actually brought a summary. But I used to send out this newsletter after every meeting. In fact, I used to carry it up here to the newsroom. And I don't think they ever looked at it.
We still get them. I do. We get them from.
Well, I brought
from
one
Colin
day, the lady that
and,
stole all the money from Douglas Toy, and she was in there asking for a pardon. And I thought, this is a prime thing that the Sentinel should be interested in. It never appeared in your paper. I said, I guess they don't look at this anyway.
Well, we
so.
reported on that. So.
We had.
But this is my last term in there, this happened. And she was asking for the pardon. And I said, well, this is news for the paper.
Well, I recall us reporting on that, so maybe you missed it.
Maybe I missed it. Although
Or maybe
I'm
the
pretty
time
thorough
frame is
on
just
that
different.
Yeah.
But, if you go through, everything has got federal money on it.
Right.
Almost every contract you come in, there's federal money involved. The one contract that we had all the discussion about was Planned Parenthood, where Debbie and Deb Hollingsworth wouldn't even speak to me because I voted for it. They were furious with me. That was a contract, I'm back in 2009.
They wouldn't
8.
speak to you because you voted for Planned Parenthood funding?
Yes. And they were very upset with me. And the governor came over to me after, he said, you voted right on that one, I thought, that's kind of interesting. But that contract comes up every so often, it's renewed and all that. And of course, you went through the thing with Sununu had to go with it. He had no choice or he would have been done. That's probably the favorite candidate for governor on that ticket anyway. But it's there was a couple with Health and Human Services where we had some problems. John, what was this commissioner? John Stevens. And the governor didn't quite get along to see eye to eye. And but John helped me out on several. My district health councils, he went with me on these things when we did these. And they only stopped when the money situation changed.
So those are instances where you said, yes, we're getting federal money. I'm for this. It's good services for the. Can you recall instances where you said, yeah, this just is not a good program, or this is not a
Boy,
good
no, that's
deal
6
for New
years
Hampshire?
ago.
Or can you describe maybe a situation where if you were on the council again, you'd say, boy, that's not a good trade-off. We don't need that money that badly. Or is it?
I find it hard to turn down things where you get matching money come from the government, because we do not get a great deal of money back from the federal government like other states. Ray Burton handed out a study one time. He said, you can't believe we're way down the list of what's coming back to New Hampshire from what we send to Washington. And we provide matching funds, but sometimes more federal funds than it is our funds. Every case you'd have to look at and just see and talk to the commissioner, basically, to find out what his thoughts are. They have a terrible time with budgets, so it's difficult.
So I wanted to ask about, you sort of touched on it with the Planned Parenthood vote and also on the governors and everything. Obviously with the scope with the way that it's set up logistically, you've got 5 seats and it's generally dominated 3-2. So, there's been a lot of talk about partisanship and whether that has a place, whether it's going to happen anyway. Do you think that first off, I guess, do you think that the votes seem to be dominated by partisanship? And if they are, is that a good way for the system to go about these decisions? Or should they be made on more of an empirical, economical basis?
Well, we had 4 Democrats and Ray Burton, and we never had partisanship into the contract discussions. Then they went to 3-2, just the other way around. And for the most part, they worked together, but you had the gentleman for District 5 that you're lucky to get anything by him. He was a very difficult person to work with. Most of the time, they work together because you had just 5 of you. And, you go to lunch together, and you socialize a little bit. So you do have to sort of work together, but District 5 councilors usually just a no vote if it doesn't meet all his criteria, whatever that might be. But I do know that the Governor Hanson had to call in the council on some vote here last year to talk to each councilor because she wasn't going anywhere with them, and called them all in. And I'm not sure what the problem was, but she was so upset with they called a recess so she could try to get the votes she needed. And I guess she did get the 3 votes she needed. But as people always say, a lot of governors should count to 3 before they come to the council meeting. And that's when councilors advise the governor. I get a kick out of a lot of people say, oh, this council's got all this business background. The governor wants it. Well, the governor has a staff of professional on her staff. They don't want to talk to the councilors for any reason. Ray Burton had a hard time in Ray Resort to get in to see Lynch most of the time. They want to abolish the council. They want no part of the council. But they have to get the contracts and the appointments.
So you mentioned a time before there was kind of this gridlock that you were talking about. Do you have any idea how to get the council back to that? Obviously, at that time it was 4 Democrats, so that helped. But is there an approach to how to go about these votes that would be better?
Well, the problem is you get this thing on Saturday morning, and you got the Tuesday to try to get all your answers together. You don't really call the other councilors until you get to the breakfast meeting before the council, and that's where you find out if there's disputes involved here, disagreements. They actually canceled the council meeting here 2 years ago because somebody had a business appointment. But they have an agenda of probably a couple hundred items, and every commissioner has to be there. The head of your department has to be there, or a deputy. When your department comes up to review, because all health and human services are in one bunch, and DOT's in one bunch, and so the commissioner has to be there. And usually the governor gets very upset if the commissioner's not there, because it's out of the blue. Somebody might come up with a question that, well, wait a minute, we're going to have to postpone this. Get the commissioner on the phone and get him over here. the time you get almost to the vote is when you find out someone's got a problem, or something you thought was just going to go through with 5 votes, and it doesn't. Well, then you gotta put it on the table for the next meeting.
Is there ever a situation where you think that it shouldn't come down to necessarily, straight budget lines, but more kind of in a political sense to make a bigger statement with whatever you're passing, and if you put it into context of something bigger that might be going on, like a movement, or should it always be just very factual and
When we always got into retirement with a prison, division of prisons, with all the overtime. Why aren't you hiring people? Because these people are building up with overtime. They're building up a retirement. It's more than they're making on an annual salary. You got that right here in Keene. It's changed, but I know a fireman that's putting in all the overtime he can get right now, and he'll retire in a couple of years, and his salary will be way above his annual salary. I mean, they've stopped that. It's happened, but that's what's killing retirement benefits that are being paid out there. The pensions are unreal. But because you could do all the overtime and everybody favored hiring their buddies, get all the overtime they can, and they retire quite comfortably. The other area with it only is JPs and notaries. Only the council can approve a JP or a notary. And they come in, you get 5 pages of renewals, and if there's a little asterisk next to it, it means there's a problem coming from the state police. And all the ones I got, about 80% of them were smoking pot in college. They all thought it leaves your record. It doesn't leave your record. You've got to go and get it off the record. And they had the one famous case where the governor was the one-term businessman that
Benson.
Benson. He had a buddy, and Ruth Griffin turned the JP down, a notary down for this person. And they joke about it today. He stomped down there demanding that they approve it, and they said calmly that Ruth Griffin is the only one that can approve this governor. But there's strange things over there that happen, and but most of the job is contracts. Almost all the 2-3 hour meeting is going through all the contracts. So you get paid $15,000 to go to 2 meetings? I don't think so. And our group, like I said, we were on the road because we figured that's all the money flows out of the council to the communities. So if someone's got a problem, you're going to get an answer from the commissioner, because you can stop the flow of money by not approving a contract that's coming in for your town or whatever, a grant. And that's how I got involved with the school district, because even they get money funded for food programs, lunch programs, the money's coming through the state. Ray Burton said you go to the top, and you'll have answers because you're working your way from the top down to the bottom to where the problem is, and you got an answer going down. And nobody realizes that the council is so powerful when it wants to exercise its power that it's unreal. But I loved it. Everybody treated you very fairly. They would meet with you every time you asked to meet with them. They would meet with you. I had a regular schedule going to the communities to meet with people, talk to people, and you just love it if you like getting out there. The first time I ran for city council in Ward 1, it was I finished 4th out of 4 people running for the 4-year seat, the 2-year seat. But I went door to door and I got the 4-year seat, and that's been my outlook ever since, is getting out and meeting people, and that's what I did in that position.
So you mentioned, sorry.
Go ahead.
You mentioned the council being powerful, and speaking of procedure again, one of the other sort of roles that people look to the council to do often is to provide kind of a check to the other elements in Concord, in power, but often that seems to happen when it's the opposing parties in the council, and the check doesn't really get implemented unless that is the situation. Do you think that's sort of a natural thing? Is it a good thing? Do you think you could?
Well, this whole place, when the uproar when the Democrats took over the House and Senate and the governorship there back a few years ago, everything changed radically. You had a lot of negative reaction from those that lost. But our job dealing with the legislature is to make sure their intent was carried out and how you spend that money. If they appropriate X number of dollars and they got the intent there, and our job basically is to make sure that money's being spent as the legislation was meant to have it. And sometimes, I guess, people move within departments, they move money around on occasion. Commissioners always claim they have to because there's shortage over here or over there, but we had to approve the movement of money within departments also, which always was interesting. The prison is the one that drove us all crazy. We got involved with a meeting with the labor union down at the Sentinel Center in Manchester. They brought in a former police chief from Dover, paid him $100,000 or some ridiculous figure to take it over. But you didn't need a police chief into this detention center. You wanted someone that could work with these kids. This gentleman and the other gentleman were like they were regular kids were in jail, and they finally forced them out. But they were moving money around too. It's just so nice to be able to go and meet people and do things. I love the job, and I got along with for the most part with everybody. I never had a problem, and so I keep looking at it as what I hear. No one gets around anywhere anymore on any kind of basis. Deborah was over here in Keene a lot. I think people know that because you saw the stuff, and she hit Nashua and all the communities in between. And like I said, I had 67 communities, and I hit them all at least a couple times a year. And was able to help them procure equipment at some points, and also get a change in mind on some discipline they were handing out to someone, that, like the school kid. I mean, that was so ridiculous. And let the kids stay there. First, when I walked in the schoolroom that morning, they made it at 7 o'clock, so the other side of the state. I guess they figured I couldn't get there by 7 o'clock in the morning. But I was there first. And first words out of the ladies, the chairman of the school board showed up. And she says, "I know Ray Razorek, and I question what you're doing here." And I said, "No, I'm glad you know Ray, but I don't think you'll have any objection." And it turned out the kids stayed in school. But it's I don't know, it's a job that if you like people and want to serve and don't have a problem getting somewhere when you need it, then I'm 24/7. And I was then, and I tend to be that again. I realize I'm up there in age, but I work out, 5-6 days a week, and I take a swim in the morning, and what better way to occupy my life than take the sun again? I've been a surprise winner every time I run the sun, so.
What did you, was there anything you learned about yourself specifically in the first term that would better prepare you to tackle the responsibilities of this position the next time around, or this time around?
Well, the one was finding out where all these sub-offices are, or the divisions of the departments. They got places all over the state and location. Trying to find some of them is really difficult. And meeting, sometimes the key people, it's not always the commissioner, it's the key person you want. It's somebody that's down a ways that is involved with everything. And Ray Burton always just said, "Don't worry, everybody knows who you are already. It's your job to meet them. Introduce yourself to them, but they know who you are." I said, "Oh, okay." No, it was, like I said, I just thoroughly enjoyed the job, and we had a great group. I mean, they were all on the road. None of them had a full-time job, which you've got today. They got full-time jobs, and Dan St. Hilaire, I beat him to my second term, but then in 2010 they wiped all the Democrats out. We all disappeared. And Danny won that, but he only stayed a year because he's a lawyer and he had a full-time job. And he found he couldn't travel. He couldn't, and even a council meeting could interfere if he's going to court. So it's, it's the first time you've gone to all people with full-time jobs.
John, you mentioned earlier yeah, making decisions on appointments, judges, notaries, justices of the peace and such, and getting a packet of information on that. So aside from having maybe a notation from the state police that, there's a red flag on this particular person, how do you go about yourself vetting those candidates? And
Where there's a problem,
can you,
like
in
for a
that amount of
JP
time?
or a notary,
Well,
we call them.
even if there's not so if you get a packet and there's not an asterisk, you just assume, okay, this person's qualified, I'm going to approve it? Or how do you
Yeah, because
make those
there could be
decisions?
200 names on the list. It's 5 pages of single-spaced. JP's being renewed, or the notary's being renewed. It's not a difficult thing to get that kind of a license.
Would you take perhaps more of an active role in vetting somebody who was up for a judgeship?
Oh, well, the Chief Justice, I met personally with her on 2 occasions when she came up for her appointment. I called all the judges that were being appointed and commissioners. I called every one of them to talk to them and met with some of them. Some were so highly qualified that you just wanted to meet them. It's to shake hands with them and say hi.
What criteria did you use in evaluating them?
The judges,
Yes.
based on their past experience, the qualifications. We get a resume on everyone, and then you hold a public hearing. That's required. And you'll spend sometimes 2 hours in a meeting, everybody throwing questions at the judge to be.
And are you looking just for legal competence, or are you looking for a track record in their decisions in certain issues, or how do you go through that process?
I basically just look at their experience. I don't want to track their decision-making on cases, because it would probably make me too far to the left if I was trying to track a record on a judge because I like judges to be liberal in their thinking to a degree, but not way to the left or way to the right either. But no, all the judges that we came across, was maybe 5 during my term there. One of the other judges is head of the Superior Court system.
Murphy?
But we meet them individually, then we go to the public hearing and we throw out all the questions we can think of. I never heard someone question why they made a certain decision in a certain case at a hearing. I never heard that happen. They could probably dig that out from their own, the council could probably dig that out themselves, but I never heard anyone in a hearing for a judge ask, how did you arrive at that decision, with this decision? I never heard that. Where we had most of the problems was on masters, which they've sort of done away with now. You'd get into that with protective of children. You had the masters that one guy was terrible. He was from Maine actually, and I don't know how he got to be one of the masters in New Hampshire, but there were a lot of complaints about him. But that's not. You're not supposed to get involved with judicial operation. That's basically off base to get involved in the day-to-day operations or decisions or anything like that. And certain places, you're not supposed to interfere with the operations of any department. You can meet with the commissioner. You can call for meetings to discuss things, but you can't walk into a commissioner's office and say, I want you to do this down at this area. And, that's a no-no, because that's not your position. But it was just so neat. Everybody was so fair and clean. I just loved the idea of traveling and meeting everybody. I only got 2 more towns to visit in New Hampshire, so I qualified for the 244 communities.
Where haven't you been?
One of them is at the top of the state, and off to the side somewhere. And I had been up there, but I was running out of time to get back. And I didn't want to get, someone told me it was a dead end type of deal, and I just didn't want to do that.
But you were so close.
Well, that's why I want to get back again. But it is, it's just enjoyable, and I got the time, and I enjoyed it, so. We took a picture once, so we're all standing there with I like it here, little signs, with the governor, and he said, we want to stay here. And, but yeah. But I was going to ask you about one other thing. I also sent out every town in the community gets grants from the state, and the council has access to every community. And I'd make a copy of that once a year, send it out. So this was Pittsfield, and believe it or not, we had a meeting there, and the hall was packed. They got, this is Allentown. They get $42,000 in various grants to help them within the community. This one here came out, and get the picture on it, but it's provided, and I mailed those out. This is with Debbie down at the Winchester when they're doing the bridge down there. I worked with her on the public hearing on that one. A nice letter from Dave Priest. What a good guy I was, thorough. And this one is we're touring with Ray Burton and all the we went to the reserves, National Guard thing, one place. Then Ray got me riding the back of a caboose going up north. And this is a meeting we had up where the Lance Jewelry, you ever know that? But he got somebody up there in Newport, and they bought us all the yellow shirts, and they closed down Main Street and had someone there to direct you right into your parking space. It's unreal. And then my first campaign, way back with John King running, Bob Mallett, myself. King was going through the Peerless Insurance Company. My first run. And then I had a meeting up here in Walpole where it was my meeting, and we had Ken Burns show up and do that. My first ads that I ran for. That's the type of ad I had somebody draw me these ads just to run in. It was just things I could hand out. It must have went personally.
So I don't want to let you go without asking if it come November, if you get to the primary and get to the general election, you stay in the state for election day, right? So,
someone said, "I'll buy you a ticket."
I go.
Yeah, someone said that. We'll raise some money for you. Take a trip to Brussels again if you want to go. Well, no one ever. Democrats didn't run anybody. Peter Spalding been there 30 some odd years, but he was very arrogant and obnoxious, and he didn't go anywhere. He held like the DOT. He held one meeting in Concord or Pembroke, a surrounding town, and the second meeting would be over maybe Rochester. That's all he ever did. Like I said, I had like 14 meetings a year spread throughout this whole thing. DOT wasn't that happy, but they had to do it. But again, we pulled all kinds of people in the communities because they never saw anybody before. And but it was like I said, I really enjoyed the job. I don't count on winning ever, but I don't spend any money either, as people discovered. I spent just a couple $1,000s that year. But the day I came back, I got a call from a lady over at the motor vehicle department. She said, "Could you hear that cheer over there?" And for us, what do you mean? When we heard Peter got beat. But I went to the retirement party for John Stevens, and I went to the retirement party for the director of motor vehicles, because I worked with these people. But no other Democrats showed up, even from just a couple of state reps even showed up. But they did a pretty good job for the state. While they're in a different policy difference with the governor, but do you boycott a retirement pipe or someone like that? I don't know. I attended them all, and like I said, it's respect. But yeah, but I love it, and it's just fun to get out there. You know, it's tough because Concord. I'm the only one that's held this seat in probably over 60 years. It's not from the immediate Concord area. I'm the first Democrat to get elected and get reelected. But the seat was with Peter Spalding for 30 some odd years. Before that was Jim Hayes. And you can go back as far as you can go. It's always a Concord area seat, and it's always been a Republican. And it was that, John, much as sweep of everything that got us in there, I guess. But like I said, I was the first Democrat to get the seat, and they wanted the seat for the next governor, Colin, so that one had to be. And so now back again. It's all, like I said, I just enjoy it, and I'm in good health, and got the time, so I would love to do it again. If I don't, it's no big deal. You know, it's life goes on. And, might do something for somebody else this time. But like I say, I do enjoy it.
Good.
I thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks for coming in.